This is a film about the perfect country. It doesn't yet exist and it may never, but thinking about it is no idle daydream. Sketching utopias is a way to address current problems and understand how to solve them. Focusing on the ideal version of something helps us more clearly define what we feel is wrong with what we have. Utopias bring our plans for reform into focus. Here, therefore, are a few glimpses of what the best place in the world might be like. In the perfect country, people are, perhaps surprisingly, still very busy working. Everyone isn't on holiday while robots do the work. That's because people know that when it's the right sort, work can be far more fulfilling than leisure. What people mean by the right sort of work is work that feels meaningful. That is, work that leaves one with a sense at the end of a working day that one's made a genuine improvement to the lives of others, and that one's done so through the exercise of some of one's distinctive and higher talents and skills. That's a lot more fun than sunbathing. To get to this point in the perfect country, a lot of time is spent drilling into people's characters from an early age in order to determine what sort of work they'd be best suited to. Realizing the potential of every worker is pretty much the national priority. The perfect country is rife with a new breed of entrepreneur. Like the entrepreneurs of old, they want to make money, but they want something else too, to properly and deeply satisfy their customers. There's no selling of bullshit here, even if it flatters the balance sheet. Naturally, aiming to make a profit while doing something meaningful is a very hard double act to pull off. That's why entrepreneurs are so lauded here. It's deeply taboo to be a philanthropist in perfect land because having enormous surplus wealth is generally a sign you've probably been extracting rather too much cash from your business and have not been courageous enough to risk money investing in properly meaningful goals. In the perfect country, respect is given not just for becoming wealthy, but for how serious the problem was that you fixed while making your wealth. There are famous people in the perfect land, but not the usual suspects. Here, celebrities are exemplars of qualities we really need in our everyday lives. One of the most famous people in the country won the Good Apology contest last year. Few of us are ever called to be movie stars or great singers, so these aren't the names people know about here. The curriculum is reverse engineered from the things that used to give people most trouble in the old world. Therefore, there's extensive study of things like how to find your vocation and settle into a job you can love, how to be confident, diffuse conflicts, and know your own mind, how to have satisfying relationships, and, this is a huge class, how to wind down and not lose your temper. A sign of being well educated isn't erudition, it's being happy and kind. People are incredibly unromantic in the perfect country. That's why, unsurprisingly, relationships go so much better here. People don't talk endlessly about finding the right person. They know there's no such thing. Romantic enthusiasm is deeply frowned upon and seen as the enemy of love. People are extremely emotionally literate about their feelings. Psychotherapy has high prestige. It's not unusual to hear someone say, "Your transference is interfering with my projection of your ego ideal." People have a really good grasp of their own craziness and how it might affect their relationships. It's not uncommon for people on a first date to ask one another quite good-naturedly, "And so, in what way are you crazy?" Human fragility is a given, as is the need to treat it with sympathy. There's a routine assumption here that no one has a clue how to bring up a child, just as no one knows, by intuition, how to land a plane or perform brain surgery. That's why everyone is given a good deal of training. Classes start from an early age. You can, of course, have a baby without doing the training, but that would be like a mountaineer setting out to climb an Alp in their slippers. Evidence of the success of the nationwide parenting program is that hardly any 11-year-olds want to be famous or unusually good-looking. The last person whose life was ruined by a messed-up childhood died several decades ago. There are some quite bad things on the news in the perfect country, but no one comes away terrified or incandescent with rage. The nightly news, which is drawn up and read by philosophers, provides a subterranean lesson in maturity and calm. The news isn't just any old thing that happened today. Its purpose is to guide people to the information that can best help them and their country to flourish. It's an applied branch of one of the country's biggest industries, wisdom. In the perfect country, very few people still believe, but the population as a whole feels quite sympathetic to what religions used to bring, especially community, ritual, and morality, and they found some inspiring substitutes. People gather in new kinds of secular temples dedicated to important qualities. There are temples to calm and temples to community, temples to forgiveness and to kindness. There are rituals for all the major life stages, and the best writer in the country has recently written a secular liturgy for weddings and funerals. There's a replacement also for the 10 Commandments, which makes a big deal of the idea that most people are mean through anxiety and vulnerability rather than strength or evil. In the perfect country, people love art, but they've entirely given up on the strange idea that art should be for art's sake. Being an artist is a job with a very practical purpose. It's to make the best ideas vivid and persuasive so that we can keep them at the front of our minds at all times. Art is there to remind us to be calm, forgiving, open to experience, and properly awed by all that exceeds us. It's a therapeutic medium which is judged to be part of the National Health Service. In the perfect country, the cities are beautiful, partly because there are very few architects around, and originality in design is really frowned upon. So rather than call in architects every time a new building is required, developers here just follow templates that have already been shown to work. 6-story high buildings with large windows, contemporary forms and natural materials abound. You build densely, don't give up all roads to cars, and make sure that the streets are lively. As a result of this beautiful, slightly boring predictability, there's very little NIMBYism and property prices stay reasonable. Though people love nature, they're never that unhappy when a new development is announced, as none of us would be if Venice or Bath was about to be built in a field near us. That's the sort of standard of beauty expected and delivered by developments in the perfect country. People accept that they need help with many things, so there's no terror at living in quite a paternalistic, or even you might call it nannying culture. The perfect country is a complete democracy, therefore people know and trust that the government is always acting to defend citizens' own best long-term interests. It's a force enabling them to realize their true potential. That's why the government bans business doing certain quite unhelpful things, and why there are shows on TV about how to be a kinder person. It's not spooky because it's properly, democratically sincere. People are grateful in the perfect country. Patriotism isn't seen as a weird aberration. It's an appropriate response. You don't just feel proud of what you've achieved, you can feel part of a bigger, better, collective adventure. Now, the surprising thing is that perfect land is, oddly, not so far from many of the places we live in already. All we need is a little more philosophy and a lot more willpower and imagination, and we'll get there.